Hello, welcome to another yummy data science episode. In this episode, I'm going to try something different. I'm going to make a lightning video on a machine learning application that I have done in healthcare. So let's get started. Today, I'm going to be focusing on target ideation in drug discovery, and I'm going to explain very briefly and a very high level what that means. So I have this very nice infographic from Technology Networks, and it lays out in relative clarity and detail the steps that are involved behind drug discovery. And drug discovery is a long and complex and costly process. It can take up to 15 years from a drug being thought of and then getting on the market, and it can cost $1 to $2.5 billion. Um, well, I'm going to put it very simplistically, but the first step is to think about what drug you want to make. And to think about that, you want to think about what human gene or protein in the body you want to impact. And so the way it works is there's a disease area, and there may be a gene or protein that modulates or impacts or turns that disease on or somehow turns things off to have the disease show up. And so when I said modulates or it turns it on or it turns it off, that's called mechanism of action. So you need three things. You need to know the disease area, you need to know the gene or protein, you need to know the mechanism of action, and then you want to come up with a chemical compound that will somehow change the way that the gene or protein acts and then turn the disease off or down. And that's a very high level overview of what target ideation is. It's akin to saying that Einstein's general relativity was about light and space and gravity. So the way that this was implemented was that scientists in an R&D branch in a pharmaceutical company were looking at patents, and they were looking for novel chemistry, for instances of novel chemistry. So that is, with a particular disease in mind, you have a gene or protein, you have a chemical compound, and a discovery of a new mechanism of action. So these scientists were combing the patents for novel chemistry to think about ideas on their own. And they asked us, the data science team, to come up with a natural language processing empowered tool. And that's exactly what we did. And we built a web application that scored patents on a monthly basis, and it flagged those that had novel chemistry. So just a little bit more detail. How does one go around doing it? And first of all, how do you create a database of historical patents? So obviously, you can think that since there are millions of patents, both coming in and both in the past, this is going to be a very heavy lift in from an IT's perspective. And it's also a difficult task with respect to NLP because a lot of these patents have language that is intentionally meant to obfuscate or confuse the reader. So, for example, they'll mention 30 diseases and 30 different applications. Because, you want to hide your invention. So, the way that we went around this problem was that we used our human scientists to help us create a ground truth. So we gave them a biased sample. And why biased? Because looking for patterns with novel chemistry among the ocean of patterns was like finding a needle in a haystack. So we gave them a haystack with lots of needles in them, and we asked them to highlight whether these had novel chemistry and whether and why. And then the converse is also true. For patterns that didn't have novel chemistry, we said why. Then it was their a priori belief that heuristic flags would lead to a good result. And then we wanted to demonstrate that machine learning models, starting with logistic regression, would beat the heuristic flags. And indeed they did. And we settled upon a gradient boosted trees model that both had high recall and high precision. And the number of false positives was low. So the scientists were impressed, and the IT department and the data science teams pulled the whole project together. And I can see I'm already past 5 minutes. I'm going to stop